Can you see it? Yes, they can. Okay. Good evening, fellow Gagutians. How we all doing today?
Good evening.
Yes.
Good evening. Doing well.
Good. Yes. Gagut evening to all of you, Gagutians and the world. It's a pleasure to have a connectivity with the Creator, as always. In reality, everything you do in your life connects you with the Creator. Anything that requires the usage of your mind automatically connects you with the Creator. So therefore, and every time we're connected with the Creator, calls for a celebration. And especially, in the mode we are right now, in times of really trying to understand what it is God has done. Everything takes, goes on a path, that is fundamentally summarized by eta sub n. Everything in the universe goes on those eta sub n. So there's a starting point and an ending point, and so on and so forth. So, and then with the starting point to the ending point will be milestones. Milestone when you are starting, a milestone when you're ending. So it is that our journey from the time of creation to the present has been going on those paths. And by nature of the universe, in terms of the universe is a vibration, one thing being repeated over and over and over. So it has cycles. And the fundamental parts, are given by eta sub n. So that journey, collectively and individually, part of the purpose was to determine the actual infallible God order. In other words, what are we here to do? Why did we pop out of the original existence of God in terms of a wave, all wave force field, and then come out and have a materialized portion? Materialized portion is simply higher density, much higher density of the waves, and more sluggish as a result than the waves, the regular waves. So, and on that journey, we're supposed to determine, for example, what is God in our sluggish state, in the material form? Where do we come from, and why are we here? So that search, in the process, people are, humans and other creatures will definitely begin to think of, okay, whoever gets revealed this particular revelation will have to be one that is blessed by God, one that has a more special relationship with God. So in the process, the search for all those answers, was classified in that particular form. It has to be through the order of God for one to see, that, and understand those secrets. And so it is that from the time of creation to 1990, there were no answers. And although people were indicating a satisfaction with the guesswork, some sensible guess as to answers to those questions, which is the theories. Nobody was bold enough to say, I'm going to look for the unified field theorem. Nobody, no human being or any creature has any guts to go direct like that and say they're going to search for the grand unified theorem. So they settle for a grand unified theory. And as John says it, John is very kind, and he says they were looking for unified field theory. They didn't have a choice. Nobody would delude themselves to say, gee, they want straight up. They couldn't, there are a lot of things that experience have already shown they couldn't know, couldn't understand exactly already. So when you go into a much more complicated realm, you're not going to be bold enough to say, gee, all I'm looking for is exact understanding. So that was why the theory is used. Because even as a theory, that is still extraordinarily far-fetched. You know, so, but John tends to be kind to say, well, you know, they should have been looking for a theorem. No. There are some people who have a great taste for, who appreciate caviar as a very good tasting food item, depending on your culture and so on. And, you know, but in spite of that taste, that kind of taste, basically, people still settle for something less than caviar every day. It isn't because they would not rather have caviar, but that is what is more realistic for the moment. It's basically the dynamics of why were people searching for unified field theory as opposed to unified field theorem. So in any case, the journey started from, you know, like for a baby coming to this world, the moment you arrive into this world, the moment we were created, the journey began. And so, but 1990 ended the search for those answers, you know, in terms of this equation here on the screen, Gij, comma j equal to 0, which is something God revealed to me through which God infallibly proved that how I can determine what is reality, what is the infallible truth, meaning everything that God has ordered are all infallible truths. How would I identify those? A constraint, something that if an entity satisfies that, by definition, they become infallible truths. Again, that's extraordinarily bold, but only in the realm of God one can actually pursue things that way. Ordinarily, one cannot have such a boldness. And so eventually what happened was God revealed that answer. I said, okay, you know, in mathematics, you have to form questions, you know, or, you know, a proposition, you know, phrases that describe your proposition, what you're looking for. What if you want to look for something, if you want to know what, you know, the human being as opposed to other creatures, you will give certain things that will give you a way of identifying the human beings, right? You know, their height, for example, how many legs they have as opposed to how many hands, you know, that kind of dynamics. So you spell out the identifying features, a constraint that a creature must satisfy to be classified as a human being. The Gij, comma j equal to 0 is an identification for any infallible truth, which includes all creatures. So God said the constraint for identifying any creature, anything that's infallible truth, is that all infallible truths meaning all creatures and all solutions to all problems, and all exact equations that represent all of them, past, present, and the future, originate out of just one invariant, GI, which immediately all the thinking that existed before 1990 in terms of whether you're talking about religion or other philosophies and so on and so forth, the concept of God, one thing that tied the concept of God in various forms together is that is the source where everything came from. So therefore you have a theorem which God revealed that says all infallible truths that includes all creatures and all solutions to all problems, as long as all solutions mean all infallible solutions, every infallible reality originates out of just one invariant, and that invariant, because it contains the subsets and individual members of that group, or superset, contains creatures like human beings, because those are infallible truths as well. It then, what it actually does is defines that God the Creator infallibly and automatically. Infallibly. So that's the first revelation from God, is that if you want to identify all infallible truths like all the creatures, they must come out of just one invariant. That, like I said, defines God. So immediately you know that human beings, including all of us and each of us, our existence automatically verifies that theorem, that part of the part of the theorem that says they must come out of that just one invariant. Because if you found a creature, then there must be a creator, because a creature is supposed to come from the creator. And so therefore, this one invariance where every creature, so you want to identify a creature, it must come out of a creator, GI, which has orthogonal component GIJ, and a divergence when you fix a material over space-time, which is represented by comma as a change or divergence of Gij, comma J equals 0. Because that is a property, an invariant or infallible property of an invariant, which is that when because it's an invariant, it doesn't change, or it can't increase or decrease. Once you focus on a particular time, you keep track on these transformations, and it will be maintained. So so that's what God revealed. Mathematicians who are baffled simply call this elegantly infallible revelation. Elegantly infallible revelation. And it's dynamics of geometry, infallible geometry, that now connects with what was supposed to be religious, supposed to be religion. Religion is a theory, simply. That's what the religion is. Religion is a theory, like anything that's not exact, anything that's not exactly known is based on theory or guesswork. Sometimes the guess could mislead you totally. So anyway, but either way, whatever your background, your interest as a creature, you'll be interested in where you came from and your fellow creatures come from. And for the first time in a human and creature's experience, God revealed that where we came from, which is GI, that one invariant, with orthogonal components GIJ, and a change, GIJ comma J equal to 0. That becomes, so that is how you identify any creature or any infallible truth or any infallible solution to any problem. That is what God revealed to me. Many of you have been with this for a long time, and there's sometimes a temptation to say, well, this is boring. I hear this every time. Well, the sun rises and sets every day. You know, if that's not boring, this can't be boring because that's the nature of the universe. That's the nature of God. It's vibrations and waves. And waves are based on rapid repetition. And what was hard was because there was not a real understanding of the dynamics. It looks as if, there were all a lot of variations and all that. When you're counting $1 trillion, it's $1 that you're really repeating over and over and over. So I don't see anybody saying, gee, because I have to count $1 trillion as my possession, I'm bored, I'm going to throw them away. So it is the same thing, but that is the totality of understanding. Gij, comma, j equal to 0. In your own experience, you've been doing a lot of repetition too, except unfortunately, what you are repeating and indoctrinating yourself about could not be guaranteed to be true. That's the huge difference. You call certain people master over and over and over, or miss or ma'ams over and over and over, but it wasn't real. But you were repeating it. So we eat, every couple of hours. That's the nature. That's exactly what this is describing. And therefore, there's nothing else for you to do other than deal with this. But when all is said and done, the more serious point is that, who are you kidding? Gij represents God, the creator. How could you say dealing with God, the creator, is boring? So what makes one feel like that with regards to this theorem is because it's elegantly infallible. Because sometimes when you're thinking about God without this revelation, you see some little variations because you see the features of environment around you kind of look like they're changing. There isn't much change in the reality. When there's sun, there's no sun, there are differences, but those are very, very little differences in reality. So the bottom line is everything is the same in reality. It's only a repetition. There's only one entity, which is a point. A point is the only entity that you take aggregates of them, and then you begin to talk about space and so on and so forth. They're all a collection of points. So that's what God revealed. And in the process, the whole world was explained to me by God the Creator. John, I want you to set up a type of language. see what's on the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, this is.
Formula.
That's it. That's the totality of mathematics fundamentally. It's also the totality of the universe. Mathematics is really the understanding of things. And so when you're talking about mathematics of the universe, you're talking about the understanding of the universe. So, and what makes you understand the dynamics of understanding the universe is geometries in terms of the paths of every individual subsets of the universe. So that's, oh boy. Many of you here, well, Oyibo is, and then you look at me, those who don't know me probably look at the picture and so on and say, well, so what is just like any other human being, any other black person, which is true. What makes it weird is this formula here. What makes that there's a lot of commonality, but the uniqueness that God or that associated with me is this formula here. This is the infallible geometric proof of Gij, j equal to 0. That's the most rigorous proof we can get. So the equation, the theorem itself is exactly stated, and the proof is exactly presented. And so those of you who are aspiring to actually begin understanding this stuff, what we do at this, in the stage we are in, is to introduce you to the mysteries of the universe. That is what we're doing here. And so you're going to be, it's going to be a challenge for you to get a sense of what it is you're hearing. To pick up the background for you to know what invariants are or what paths are, is going to be a fascinating experience for you. But this now makes it more compelling for you. It gives you now the motivation to really say, gee, I'm going to stay with it until I grasp it. Because once you grasp what this theorems and equations mean, then you are on your way, to a transforming of yourself into a higher and higher state of existence. And the mode that I'm in is pretty close to it actually is the state of existence where there are no problems, because God has solved all problems for me. Very, very intimately, as intimate as any creature can get with it. God is the most intimate, because for God, ethers of Ben are real space-time. Mine is a transformed space-time, which is ethers of Ben. That's where mine is. That's my brains here. And the whole universe is this. And they're all mapped right into my brains. I see them now. And I'm trying to get you all to begin to get a sense of what we're talking about. But right now, you're just seeing them in abstractions. I tell you this day in, day out. And, so why is there a theorem? And then they're all theorems. But one theorem is the proof of the other theorem. So you can't just make a statement and say, oh yeah, every creature, every reality must satisfy Jij, J equal to 0. That was it, the statement. So then anybody can make a statement. Now, if you're about a theory dynamics, then maybe what you do is take a convenient dynamics of it and then verify in so-called lab. And then people will say, oh yeah, well, you verify at one point, that's fine. That is perhaps can be acceptable to creatures or human beings, but not with the creator. The creator requires that you not only deal with infallible theorem or a theorem, you deal with a theorem, something you call a theorem first, but ultimately it must be an infallible truth or a proven theorem. This is what proves Gij, J equal to 0. That condition that must be satisfied with anything that is infallibly true. So the miracle is on so many levels that I can engage you on it, and you're gonna go crazy. You're gonna go wild. You're gonna go wild. That's not an exaggeration. That's not an exaggeration at all. Most people are still disbelieving it. It can't be, but it is. So, is it my brain here where the universe is transformed onto? And when I take n is equal to 0, I have the subatomic particles. They're all here. Exactly, all of them. So the physicists are looking for it in the lab. No, this is not something you can look. It's like looking for God in the lab. the totality of God in the lab. That's not possible. It's enough for you to have a geometric representation along with the necessary extensions that makes it infinite, whether microscopically or macroscopically, which is the dynamics that led into the guesswork dynamic general and dynamics that led to, okay, we could take one phase of that either macroscopically or microscopically and deal with it. It's convenient. So, you know, and then eventually theories, meaning guessworks, are predicted. For quantum theory, that's like subatomic dynamics. And then the gravitational, which is applicable to the macro, the large systems. But this one unifies all of them. There's nothing left out. And exactly. But you can't say, you know, that you can, you know, pick out the one building block, one subatomic particle, you know, that God started with. That, because if you're able to do that, then you invert it and it becomes God. So you're saying it is finite. You know, or it is something that, no, you can't do that. You can get the geometry of it. That's how much God has permitted. But what is most important is this is the universe right here. By universe, we mean everything that is hidden. This is all their paths, all of them. So n is equal to 0 have subatomic particles. N is equal to 1, you have Afrochrogen, previously called hydrogen. And then that's a microscopic or atomic levels. And then n is equal to 1 also is a solar system. And one of the brothers that was at the question, say, well, you talk about n is equal to 0 and n is equal to 1. What about the other n's? Well, you want me to keep you time dilation enough already? I usually give an example of professor, Cambridge trained mathematical physicist Professor Animalu, who what blew him away was that you could go past Einstein. Einstein did what n is equal to 0 and n is equal to 1. What happens is when you go past n is equal to 1, there are a lot more details that are coming in. 0 and 1 are kind of isolated. You can look at them as, isolated. So you look at curved motions fundamentally when n is equal to 1, and straight line motions when n is equal to 0. That is the dynamics. But there's any number of combinations, that will be fascinating. What Professor Animalu found out was something he and other, he studied under Dirac from Cambridge. So he learned, and Dirac was a very brilliant physicist. And what they could not find within the relativity, which is the dynamics, the slang of going past Einstein, that's what the unified field theory was supposed to do. Part of the dynamics of doing that is to be able to see how 0 connects with 1. And lo and behold, that's all here in eta sub n. So the temptation to get bored with eta sub n, because if I expose you to too much, you're gonna go crazy. You're gonna go crazy. And that's not an exaggeration, because every reality in the universe is summarized. That's why to make you go crazy. It's in eta sub n. There's nothing in terms of fundamental. You can superimpose those fundamentals to get anything. For example, you could have eta sub 0 and eta sub 1. Okay, which is like, for example, what is called the bending of light. Bending of light. And there are a lot of other things like that. It's extremely fascinating. But it's all in there. It's all in eta sub n. In other words, this is the geometry of how God created the universe. And in the process, what you call a problem is something that you can't figure out. But it doesn't matter, because this is the entire universe. So what this is to me in terms of what God has done with my brains, it's like eternal or a flashlight that allows me to see every corner of the infinite space-time, infinite, space-time of intelligence that we call the universe. So, so I see every solution to every problem. That's what Professor Atiyah cannot understand. So the solutions are in my brains. I can see. I mean, there's nothing hidden, because they're all in eta sub n. I know the fundamental, because all the fundamentals are what are here. So for Riemann, for example, n is equal to 0. I know the nature of the fundamental very well. So unlike Professor Atiyah and the rest, who are going to go and look for some additional information, you don't need any more additional information to find the zeros or find the geometry of the zeros of the zeta function. That's number one. Number two, the whole idea of hypothesis, guesswork. There's nothing exciting in guesswork as a theory. God has taken me out of that realm. God has, has withdrawn me, take me away from the realm of theories. So I didn't go try to prove Riemann hypothesis. I was ordered by God to go and solve the zeros of zeta function, because that is a reality. That's an infallible theorem in terms of the zeros of zeta function. We cannot count on Riemann guess as a theorem, because it's a theory. You don't, until you verify theory, it's useless. So what God did was, okay, the fundamental of picking out the realities, going to the fundamental solutions, because the fundamental solutions come out of the Gij, comma j equal to 0. Everything that is infallible true, including the solution to Riemann hypothesis, you don't go anywhere else other than the Gij, comma j equal to 0 and its infallible proof, which is eta sub n. And that's all in my brains. So I quickly identify n must be 0. That's it. N is 0. So that's the solution. That's the solution. N is equal to 0. This is what people who are trained on axiomatic mathematics cannot understand. It sounded so, it sounded so, you understand, it's such a shocking thing. All the time that's been wasted since Riemann, in terms of, the whole idea, to be honest with you all, the whole idea of having to go to a guesswork to find a solution to a math problem has been dropped since Gagut came into existence. It's the absence of Gagut that allowed that to be fashionable. So this is a different arena. Gagut is a different world altogether. It's the age of intelligence. But the totality of intelligence is here. When then it's infinity, that's in my brains. That's how I see. Nothing is hidden. Nothing is hidden. Therefore, the solution to the zeta function, zeros, is the theorem that is being searched. And that is exactly a G2J as a function of eta sub 0. That's all there is. That is solved. That's it. There's nothing else. So constructing the actual geometry is what remains of G2J. If you all, most of you listen to this, understand 1%, praise God, Atiyah doesn't understand this. Atiyah didn't study this kind of mathematics. This is Gagutmatics. See, they see S as a variable that comes out of eta sub 0. But the whole mathematics for Gagut, that one was an assumption. You get up and you say, gee, there's a parameter called S. We could find a function of it. You don't know the origin of eta sub n. So you don't know where S came from. That's the kind of mathematics that Professor Atiyah studied. That's why Professor Atiyah has to be commended for his brilliance. I'm very proud of him for being a black math whiz. Once this hit him, it hits him as a mathematician. He went wild. He came, I remember him coming to my hotel room in Hilton, Abuja. He has his money counted. He wanted the Gagut books. That's how he surpassed Atiyah, even though they had both Cambridge degrees. Atiyah didn't go. Atiyah stopped with John Glover. He didn't reach me. Professor Atiyah reached me. He sat down, and I remember, of the line that was people that were lined up in Abuja Hilton waiting to see me. When I took him past all of them, he was embarrassed. He said, "No, I can't. I can't. I feel awful. I mean, there are a lot of people waiting to see you before me." And I said, no. You have a special call from the Creator because God gave you intelligence. You have to come and pick up your books, and I'm pretty sure everybody on the line is that kind of person where there's a lot of respect for Professor Atiyah. So they allow him pass, and I didn't even have to ask their pardon. The line was snaking all over the place. Because during the presentation, I hit everyone hard. If you're not a mathematician, a geometer, you will not understand what this means. A lot of equations are formulated from guesswork, otherwise called theory. And I want you to delve into John's, forgiveness to people who deal in theories. Once you got to go, it's not rude to kind of play down theories, because theories, where they're accurate, they're wonderful. But outside that realm, out of that range, beyond that interval, you could be disastrous. Now, ALMIGHTY'S has no disaster. It's perfect, absolutely perfect. It's the only way you can understand anything with confidence is ALMIGHTY'S. That's what God has ordered. So he walked in and he looked in and he gave me cash. I felt so bad. I said, for a person who's such a powerful reviewer, and I thought, he said, no, here's the money. Paid cash for his books. That's why he said, start today. And anywhere Gagut goes, Professor Atiyah's name will be mentioned. It will. Because Gagut hit him. Especially when I was in the large crowd in Abuja where there was no doubt in anybody's mind that I was going to be shredded, because the whole world was there, including United Nations and Canadian ambassadors and all these other folks. They were there. Yeah, let's see how this black man is going to get around all this legend and their mathematicians today. And lo and behold, I came over there, nice, and I was delighted to see the people. That was one bad sign for them, because they thought I was going to be afraid with such a large crowd. People in the rafters, hanging to the roof, and that marked the whole scene, about 30 days. So the big guys, the real super big guys like Professor Atiyah were on the high table. And he came over there because they were trying to talk to him, ask him about comment on Gagut. He said he had no comment before he came over there, which another was saying, until I see what is being discussed, I'm not going to make any comment. This is not some joke like Atiyah. This guy would not say anything that he wasn't sure about. Doesn't matter that, he's black and I'm black and we're all black. It didn't matter to him. But however, I came down, sat down on the high table, and then when I was put on the spot, boom, boom. any number of I can count maybe 10, a little under 10 presidents of universities who are scientists that were on the high table. And Professor Animalu sat in the audience. They didn't even give him a, he came to verify the reaction of others. The whole hall was nothing but eggheads, so to speak. So I got into my presentation. I gave them a little background here and there. And I said, well, this is Gij, comma, j equal to 0. And of course, most of them were expecting me to actually go into mathematics jargon so as to leave, leave the whole hall, out of the discussion. I've been talking isomorphism and all this other stuff, and I refused to do that. So I took a very simplistic, what is called in mathematics an elegant representation, which I said, look, you get up in the morning and you start out with 1,000 naira. And then you start, using some of that money. And then you're going to write yourself a receipt when it's necessary, or you get a receipt from the person who you give the money to. And come back home later on, then you identify your initial amount, which is the money you started with. And then, just 1 second. Everyone hold, right? Everyone hold.
Yes, is everyone ready now? We're resuming.
Yes.
Very good.
Now I'll go, sir. Sir. I mean, thank you. God bless you, sir.
Yes.
We're back to Zoom.
So when I did that, and I said, well, it started out with $1,000. That's called initial amount, I sub A. And then, so as you are spending the money and you're getting all your receipts, you come back now, back to a full cycle, as they say. You now compute your final amount, which will be all the monies, add all the monies on the receipts, and then add all that addition to the remaining money in your pocket. That becomes IF, the final amount. And this is what really shocked Professor Atiyah, because he came there to be his mathematics self, a genius mathematics self, and trying to wrestle with me to understand what it is I'm talking about. But I made it surprisingly, shockingly simple for him. But in the process, I didn't lose anyone. Everybody goes through what I just prescribed every day in their lives. So I said, well, subtract IA from IF. And I said, the answer is exactly 0. That's what GIJ is. Exactly 0, meaning a reference point. You're back to the reference point after I subtract the IF minus IA, subtract IA from IF. It's always exactly 0. That is the fundamental basis of all geometries. That's it. Back to 0 where you started from. That's fundamental in the geometry. What's amazing is that every complication in geometry derives from that. It's exact. That's the entire mathematics, Gagut mathematics. There has no business, no theory anywhere there. Professor Atiyah it looked as if he was sinking through his seat. So Gij, therefore the comma with the change in that Gij must be 0 exactly again. What in the world is going on? A young man just gave the infallible truth regarding everything. And then I said, that's what Gij, comma J equal to 0 means. It's exactly 0. And the hall was silent. And I said, well, I'd like one single person to get up and disagree with that right now. It was an order from God through me. And the audacity was too much. The people look around, look sideways and forward and backwards. Not a single person, not even the United Nations personnel that were there. Nobody has. The silence was so much, if you drop a pin, you hear it. So I said, listen, I'm waiting for just one person is all I need. Not one person. Professor Atiyah, the legends on the high table, they were watching as well. They were hoping perhaps Professor Atiyah will help. And the Malan company will help. Some other, great mathematician will come up and say, yeah, Oyibo, you're wrong over here. Not one person, not one. So I said, well, since none of you disagrees with Gij, comma J equal to 0, then you are all implicated in its validity. And that's when they opened up and they cracked up, they laughed, and some did applaud and everything else. So there was not a single soul that could touch the Gij, comma J equal to 0. So now that is one step. In other words, it seems as if the equation is correct. But what about a rigorous proof? Now that is what really got Professor Atiyah. So where is the rigorous proof? So I say, okay, pum, put up ALMIGHTY'S GRAND, and it was popped up. I said, well, this is this is the fundamental component of every geometry you can think of. It's all in here. It came out of Gij, j equal to 0. They were not separate like it was done previously. You know, they'll patch one geometry with another. There was no patching here. The holiness, no wonder it is called the holiest of the Holy Grail. It's infallible God order. That's why you cannot separate God from this. This is God. This is the one thing that you could associate with the Creator. Because out of the Gij, j equal to, in other words, every creature come out of God. Everything that is infallible come out of God. And this is what infallible proves it. So if you want to go into geometry, sure, all the spaces are in here. All the spaces. X, Y, and Z are there. X squared, Y squared, Z squared are all in there. They're all orthogonal. All of them. Mathematicians, they get all kinds of prizes. They have no idea where all this orthogonal component, orthogonal geometries originate from. They have no idea. And of course, which is why most of them just stick at n is equal to 0, X, Y, and Z. You don't hear X squared, you know, Y squared and Z squared. Because how do they get it? I mean, they don't, what, you know, plus it's going to be too complicated. Well, X squared, Y squared, and all that is where the remaining geometry came from. But when Gauss thought of it, which is the so-called curved orthogonal components, when he thought about it, the prevailing thought of mathematics in terms of geometry was so, I don't want to use the word primitive, they were so constrained and restricted to this X, Y, Z, so-called Cartesian coordinates. You couldn't be talking about X squared, Y squared, Z squared, because it's so complicated. And in fact, I ran into that with Professor Paul Gagut, when a little variation, a little slope in what is called, a little slope within the eta sub 0, as opposed to S. S is a highly symmetrical variation of eta sub 0. The more general one contains slopes or difference in slopes. So when I brought it up, Professor Gagut, I remember telling me, "You are crazy," he said to me. The same way, you know, in Gauss's time, the idea of curvilinear orthogonal coordinates was crazy, absolutely crazy. That's not a joke. So, and his nature was such that he wasn't very much into controversies very much. He does his thing and makes sure it's solid and presented. When somebody wants to argue, you give them, you say, look, give me specifics that you disagree with. That's the kind of guy he was. So what he did was, he did everything. There were a lot of other stories with regards to some of his friends and who were dabbling into it, even though he had done it. He handed it over to Riemann and said, well, look, you are a younger person, you go ahead and present it, curvilinear coordinates. But in Gagut is right in here. You can get any kind of curvature you like. It doesn't matter. So all orthogonal components fundamentally are prescribed in here. They come out, and I can't even dwell on it because it is too much. It is mind-blowing. So for those of you who feel, gee, this is the repetition, you're going through the fundamental realities of the universe, which is a competition, but that repetition is what gives the complexity, the repetition. Like in the G2J solution to Riemann hypothesis. Yes, once I said that of zero is the answer, is the fundamental component to generate the exact geometry of the Riemann zeta function zeros. That's it. And once you've done that, the problem has been resolved. So Atiyah and the so-called claimants, I can't imagine a claimant who have no mathematics in their brains will be judging who solved the Riemann hypothesis, so-called. They have no brain. They can't comprehend what I'm talking about right now. Atiyah himself couldn't understand it. So claimant will be hopeless. But it appoints they appoint themselves. That's what God had ended in 1990. You come to Gagut for answers. That's the bottom line. Fakeness and greed and all that, you know, and Göttingen followed that up. He says, yes, Gagut is it. We have nothing else to fool around with. So Atiyah is trying to drag Germany back to insult Gauss, or insult Riemann first, and then Gauss as a result. That's what is being tried. The solution is when n is equal to 0 to Riemann, so-called Riemann hypothesis, as a solution to the zeros of zeta function. Is what eta of 0 is. Once you identify the n, the problem is resolved. So if claimant has any brains, he would have known, hey, it's already there. The solution is right here, eta of 0. When you have a wave equation, as I indicate so many times for those mathematicians, so-called, who understand the dynamics of wave equation has a solution, and fundamentally, it turns out that it's also eta of 0. Even though it's a second order equation, linear equation, the solution again is out of eta of 0. Out of eta of 0. Therefore, when you get that eta of 0, any function of it satisfies the wave equation. Therefore, the wave equation has solution. So if you look at, which is eta of 0. So therefore, if you look at Gij, comma j equal to 0, is the wave equation as eta sub n is to eta sub 0, or eta sub 0. That's what was found to be. So that's why wave equation has a good sound physics, because geometrically it makes sense. So there's a whole lot of cleaning up that needs to be done in mathematics, especially so-called theoretical mathematics. There's no such a thing. That's an embarrassment. But there's only one mathematics, which is Gagut mathematics. So now, so that's what happened. And as a G2J is minus eta sub 0, natural log of 2 plus natural log of u as a function of eta sub 0, multiplied by e to power I into 2j plus 1 pi. That's the exact solution to the zeros of zeta function. That is the solution that's required. That is the solution to the zeros of zeta function. So now a guesswork, which is not, you understand me, it hasn't been proven. It's simply a guesswork when you have an exact theorem to the actual problem, the guessworks will have to be found inside that exact solution. That's what I had to do. Atiyah doesn't have a clue what is the exact solution. That's why he prefers to steal it. But maybe the age will find him some kind of forgiveness. But the real forgiveness is to tell the truth. That's what really tells the truth, you know. So what I'm discussing is not like anyone can do it. It comes out of God in terms of Gagut mathematics, exact theorems and exact equations and exact solutions. That's what's the bottom line. So now when Professor Abubakar, after he was sitting down there, I said, well, the Atiyah'S of Ben is the rigorous proof of Gij, comma j equal to 0, because every reality, every solution, every infallible solution to every problem comes out of Atiyah'S of Ben. Just like I showed you, you know, the solution to the zeros of zeta function is n is equal to 0. You can use that in computing the exact geometry of that solution. That's what I had to do. So when I was going into it, there was no guesswork. And sure enough, the G2J that I just read this expression, immediately you can see the invariant as being a logarithm mapping between the dependent variable of Atiyah'S of 0, logarithm of it, onto the independent variable space, which is Atiyah'S of 0, which is what Riemann guessed. But how could you be sure of whether you prove Riemann or not if you don't know the exact solution to the actual problem? You can't be using some patched up approximate principles, you know, geometries, and say, oh yeah, well, you just proved it. What did you prove? The only way to prove is if you have some verified and proven theorem along to. That is the G2J is the infallible geometry of the zeta function zeros. So this is what saved the world. This is what saved the world. This is what connects us with the Creator. This is how we're created. It has been how we're created. From subatomic to the whole being. And from subatomic to the entire most complicated galaxies. And like I said before, what makes the galaxies complicated is a repetition, of the cycles. And that's also in Atiyah'S of, zeta, G0. And when I was explaining it in 2015, most of these people, they probably have no clue what I was doing there. Repetition. I described the solution, the exact solution to the zeta function as a clock. Clay math has nothing to do with that. Clay math perpetrate fraud, so they have no business. They have nothing to do with geometry. And they're dragging Atiyah, who is apparently, you know, being forced to surrender whatever little he did in the past. And at an age which is totally unfair. I remember even Professor Paul Garbinian telling me that at the age of 81, he was having a problem with his memories. Professor, you know, Atiyah at 89 is, you know, unless he's extraordinary, you know, will have some, you know, so obviously he has forgotten some of the things that he's supposed to know very clearly. There's no way you can prove Riemann hypothesis. That's embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing. When you have Atiyah'S of 0, that doesn't come in. It's a clock. But the clock has some wild vibrations when X is less than 1. Very wild vibration. There's no convergence. That's another thing that God, it's simply amazing. But anyway, so now So when Professor Yabaka said Eta sub n as the infallible proof, and and I say, well, you want to go into the geometry of the universe, which is the bottom line, the ultimate. Subatomic particles, how do they move? Eta sub 0. Afrocrogen, what's their curvature dynamics? Conic sections. The solar system, what's their dynamics? Conic sections as well. What about the size of a particular solar system, or even Afrocrogen systems, or the so-called elements, or what are called nuclear compounds? They're very much like the galaxies. So the brother who was asking me, gee, you never talk about that, it's called, yes, when n gets to be more than one, you get more complicated galaxy types and more expanded, more complicated solar systems. How many planets are associated with, with any given solar system and stuff like that. That's what Professor Animalu, who, when he had n is equal to 2, and he was able to find things they couldn't see with the Einstein's theory, he was blown away, absolutely blown away. So when he comes and he gives his testimony, he says, yeah, there's one thing that is very clear. It has taken the world past Einstein. That's what he said as a very, very well-renowned mathematical physicist. I studied under Dirac. So when I started out, I was pure geometer. This is what fascinated me, Eta sub n, and it fascinated Professor Grigor Sagas as well. It fascinated him. Because when he reviewed it, he summarized it, and he says, yeah, we've gotten a proof for Einstein, but what we really got is the oneness of theorems and oneness, consequently, of equations. So that's what we're dealing with. That's precisely what we're dealing with. So therefore, all I need, in other words, what you see here is Gij, comma j equal to 0 is an infallible equation that describes every theorem that includes every creature, and all theorems and all creatures, all of them, collectively and individually. Like the wave equation describes a wave. But in that case, there's some little approximation here and there. But in this, there's no approximation whatsoever. So roughly, Gij, comma j equal to 0 is to wave modeling, which is a theory, came out of a theory, ironically. But the theory was well thought out. It's certainly not exact, but it gives the essential, approximately, of the geometry. So there's some constraints that are necessary. The exact is a first order, exact represents a first order, and that's a Gij, comma j equal to 0. And then the Eta sub 0, that is the solution to the D'Alembert solution, is to Eta sub n. But Eta sub 0 is the exact solution to the wave equation. So it's the Eta sub n, the exact solution to, or exact rigorous proof of all theorems. As the bottom line is done. That's why Professor Iyabaka led all the black race to the conclusion that Gagut is capable of solving all mathematical problems. That's where they got it from. Because once you have a solution, and sure enough, the wave equation, you can compose the waves that satisfy, at least approximately says the wave equation with, that Eta sub 0, subset of it that solve the actual equation. He said this one has no constraint. Has no constraint. They're infinite. And so they measure one's understanding of reality in totality. So that's what God has revealed. So therefore, you have a restriction that is necessary to guarantee infallible solutions. But you also, in rigorous proving that by providing fundamental proofs and fundamental solutions to those. So therefore, every problem has been solved. That's what it means. So, and that, so you need equation, differential form of it, and then the actual geometric solutions that have come out like algebraic geometry. That's what you have here. It's exactly what you have here. So that is a solution. Therefore, solutions to all problems. These are solutions to all problems. Just like out of it, I gave you the Riemann, the G2J, the Riemann, in terms of the zeta function, zeros, out of which is trivial to find out where Riemann was right and Riemann was wrong. Riemann never talk about convergence of the series. And there's nowhere an analysis of any series in real mathematics where you don't talk about this convergence. That's something that Atiyah may have forgotten. John? Yeah, please.
Can everyone see the page in front of them?
Yes.
That's it.
Okay. So, therefore, that's what I was describing before. Already there. Because once you have the fundamental building block, that's it. In the Riemann, the fundamental building block is eta sub 0. That's it. So you left out, you've singled out the n, you know, out of the infinite number of n's. Singled out one. And that's eta sub 0. It's exact because it's out of eta sub 0 that s comes out of when g00 is equal to 1 and g01 is equal to I. That's it. So that was already contained in eta sub n. So that is what it means that Gagut contains all solutions to all problems, because once you got the fundamental building block, the rest is details. And so, and so therefore the construction of the actual geometry of the zetas, zeta function zeros comes out like this very neatly. This is exactly what the zeta function zeros look like. Is this invariant here? Atiyah was given this stuff and he just conveniently ignored that so he can go and steal at 89. That's extraordinarily unfortunate, as I've repeated it over and over. The bottom line is this is it. So now, in other words, this is what was missing, which is why even Riemann had a problem. Riemann couldn't say this as the zeros of zeta function. This is the invariant representing the zeros of zeta function. Therefore, that is the solution to the problem. Somebody is guessing what is this solution. When you have this solution, you've solved the problem. But no, Atiyah has proved the Riemann hypothesis. He's proving a guesswork without getting the actual solution. This is the only real solution. So what is required is the zeros of the zeta function. This is exactly the zeros of the zeta function. So going to tell people you prove Riemann hypothesis, you're proving your own idea of Riemann. Riemann hypothesis is a hypothesis. You're proving it without verifying the actual solution. Atiyah did not have a solution to the zeta function zeros. He just took some kind of cacamamita and patched them together and said, gee, I proved it. That's why, I didn't hear where he discussed convergence. Because zeta function is a series, a complex series for that matter. And the rest of the world has been insulted. That's the part of what God ordered me to really make sure you all understand. Clement is insulting your intelligence. He's calling you morons, in a way reflecting himself on the people. For you to talk about Riemann hypothesis, you must provide the invariant, the actual geometry, the actual theorem for the zeta function, which is what exactly this is. There's no creature on the planet or anywhere in the that has brains that can challenge this here. Therefore, this is the solution to the zetas of zeros of zeta function. If this was if Riemann was able to find this, he wouldn't need the guesswork. His guess is only one parameter in this mapping here, which is x is equal to 1/2. And so it is simple-minded for Atiyah to go and conclude, well, he proved the Riemann hypothesis. If you start out in your analysis by assuming x is equal to 1/2, yes, you may say, oh yeah, 1/2, but there are a lot of that. Number one, that is a finite field because it does not apply when n is infinity. That's number one. But your patched up approximate principle doesn't allow you to see that. Nor does he allow you to see when n is equal to 1 over 3. When x is equal to 1 over 3, the so-called zeros that Atiyah supposedly has proven is also valid. And those of you who are just being you just stand by. You go and you see the fraud. They indoctrinate, dosing up humanity with Atiyah's fraud. And people are, so they are like lambs being slaughtered. It's extremely painful to me. 1 billion people have already watched Atiyah and got indoctrinated to vote on some dirty Jim Crow dollar, Clement dollars. They will give it to him in order to perpetrate the fraud. They have not taken a look into this thing here. They have no time for that. This is the actual solution, exact solution. It's not some bogus claim we prove Riemann hypothesis. There are any number of ways you can come. In other words, somebody can pull 1/4 instead of 1 over 2, and they will still prove that to be correct. And the infinite x values that will get what is called a finite field zero, because it's a mapping logarithmically from the U space to eta sub 0 space. Eta sub 0 contains infinite number of x values. The bottom line is the computation is where the practical side is. You compute the actual zeros. For you to compute an actual zeros, you must specify the number of terms that you're going to be using. And the number of terms is an additional function. It's an additional independent variable in addition to x and y. So the only way your computation of the zeros will be independent of the number of terms is if there is convergence. That's the only way. Atiyah and everybody else ignore convergence. You are being insulted you'll be treated like morons. That's what Atiyah and Clement is doing. And Clement is trying to prove himself or themselves to be mathematician when they have no clue what mathematics is. In real analysis, you must deal with the number of terms in any series. That's why the number of terms, how that responds to, especially if it's infinite series, you want to see the behavior at infinity. Otherwise, you can't say anything conclusive at infinity, because infinity is not expected. But every computation guy who will go in there trying to compute the Riemann, the zeta function, zeros, they will stop at a finite number of terms. It's a finite number of terms. Therefore, all that is computed, every one of you must listen. Every zero that is computed for Riemann zeta function is for finite, a given number of terms. Because since infinity has no end, you can't keep all of them. You must stop at some point. Therefore, every computation is a finite field. The only way of saying that finite field represents infinite fields is if that function is independent of the number of terms. And the only way it can be independent of the number of terms is if the function converges as n approaches infinity. Therefore, there's nobody really that can talk about solving so-called Riemann hypothesis or the zeros, the geometry of the zeros of Atiyah's zeta function without first proving convergence. But this is the actual, the elegant, in other words, this zeta function here is a very neat representation once you do the transformation here. The most important part of here is that this is a logarithmic mapping between U space and the independent variable, you know, eta sub 0, out of which S comes from. That's what we're dealing with here. So now, anyway, therefore, when Professor E.L. Bakker on behalf of the entire black race says, Gagut is capable of solving all mathematical, I just told you, Gij, comma J equal to this is what, you know, identifies the solution to all problems, and you know every problem. So therefore, once you identify the N, the construction of the actual reality is trivial. That has been done. This is where this comes from. And this is a clock. This represents a clock. And the clock is where the infinite solutions come from. That's what we're dealing with. John? Okay. So that, you know, so therefore, the Riemann, therefore, the zeta function zeros is an example of how Gagut, you know, elegantly, you pull solutions, exact solutions to the most complicated problem out of Gagut very neatly, very in the most godly way. So go to convergence. You know, the U bar 3. Yeah. Yes. So this is what we're dealing with. And you've been saying this for a long time. But you need to see it forever so you can actually understand it. Because it's a complicated problem. Only Gagut can really explain it. Notice how I can talk to those of you who have not had any advanced geometry before in your life. I can talk to you about it. I can show you certain things that are very clearly proven, and so on and so on. Atiyah cannot address you. He can let you marvel at some phony presentations. I'm engaging and asking you to ask questions. Atiyah can't do that because what he has is not mathematics. Yes. Yeah, go to the actual expression, the overall expression. Yeah, go past this point. Yeah, this point. Yeah. What we're dealing with here is to talk about what Riemann was talking about. Riemann was talking about solution at infinity. And like I said before, N is an independent variable, just like X and Y. So in reality, when you have infinite series and you assuming, you know, the N is not a constant, the number of times is not a variable, you're assuming there has to be convergence. That's the only way you could do that. But it has to be proven. You can't just go by assumption. So, and I've gone over this before, but I'll go over it again. Okay? See, in this, you know, so therefore, this is U bar 3, the African, geometric African series, is the upper bound function on which the convergence of the zeta function depends. Because upper bound means term by term, the modulus of the components and the modulus of overall function, you know, is greater than that of zeta function, corresponding zeta function. Therefore, wherever it converges, the U bar 3 converges, that is where zeta function converges. And so miraculously, that zeta function, that function U bar 3 comes out to be exactly, you know, geometric series, and it has exact solution. That's a miracle. So therefore, as a function of X and N, you know, in terms of the modulus, only. The rest are trigonometric functions that have their cycles and so on and so forth. You know, those ones have certain, you know, the one is the maximum of, sine and cosine and so on and so forth. But what really gets it to grow wild is the modulus, amplitude. So the amplitude is basically of betas of, u bar 3 is given by this formula here, 1 minus 1 over n into x minus 1 over 1 over 2 into x minus 1. This has all the essential features and the dependence of, the amplitudes of zeta function, and as it relates to the number of terms and x, which is the real part of the zeta etas of 0 or s. So when x is less than 1, like x is equal to 1 over 2 or anything smaller, the power of n in the bottom here is negative. N is always positive. So if it's negative, it means that it's an inversion of 1 over this stuff. It becomes 2 to power n over 2. 2 to power n over 2, when n gets very large, it's extremely large. Number one, that amplitude becomes a function of n, the number of terms. So at infinity, what zeta function is supposed to be looking for is at infinity, meaning the only way you can find one answer for that at infinity is if this function here is independent of n. When x is less than 1, it is dependent on n, because 1 minus that, you understand what happens is 1 is too small compared to 2 to power n over 2, because n could be 10 to power trillion. Therefore, that will be much, much bigger than 1. So therefore, and it continue, it gets bigger. So therefore, under that circumstances, you will definitely have to specify n before you can talk about the solution to that problem. Therefore, it becomes dependent on n. It's not independent of n. It's only when the function is independent of n that you could say, as n as approaches infinity, that you could say, okay, this is the solution to infinity. When it approaches infinity, it approximates this solution. You can't say that when x is greater than, is less than 1. Absolutely not. Because it grows and the largeness is evidence it does not converge. This is, infallibly, elegantly correct. And this particular U-bar mimics the behavior that's well documented about zeta function. Absolutely. The singularity, for example, at x is equal to 1 is demonstrated very clearly here, which is known to occur in the Riemann, the zeta function zeros. Zeta function zeros has a singularity at x is equal to 1. The upper bound here shows the same singularity. Because when x is equal to 1 exactly, what you have is the bottom here is 0. So if you're dividing something by 0, it means that cannot be a 0 there. Turns out it's actually, you understand me? So that is one singularity that is known for zeta function. Zeta function at a singularity at x is equal to 1. That pops up here because u bar 3 is the upper bound, as in the amplitude of the overall function of zeta function. is the upper bound, is the amplitude. So it has the features, including the singularities. That is exactly, you know, so this is so godly. It's embarrassing that, you know, one has to try to teach Professor Atiyah, you know, something that is so very clearly obvious. Thank God there is a professor at Oyibo, and some people who can, you know, who can understand the geometry. This is very rigorous proof in terms of analytical analysis, mathematical analysis. Very, very clear. The upper bound is determined exactly, closed form, and it has features of the original zeta function, particularly including the, you know, the singularity that x is equal to 1. So there is no guesswork here. This is extremely rigorous. And so, but Atiyah says when x is less than 1, as in 1 over 2, 1 over 2 is less than 1. We just proved that the thing will be proportional to 2 to power n over 2, because n is always positive. Professor Atiyah says that number 2 to power n over 2 will be approaching 0 when n is infinity. And you can see that that's extraordinarily embarrassing. It approaches infinity, not 0. It's only when it approaches 0, like when x is greater than 1. When x is greater than 1, however, you see x minus 1 is positive, and x minus 1 here is also positive. So when n is positive, you have 1 over, is the inverse of what we got in there. That's what is called convergence, because in that case, when n gets very large, you will have 1 divided by an infinity. 1 divided by infinity, as n approaches infinity, you know, will approach 0. And when it approaches 0, it hardly matters how big your n is. That will be getting, the bigger the n, the closer this term to 0. Only when x is greater than 1. Atiyah is saying that when x is less than 1, where this will be an inverse instead because of the minus value here, and therefore that 2 to power n over 2 cannot approach 0. Atiyah says it approaches 0. You understand? John, are you following that? 2 to power n over 2, does that approach 0? Yeah. No, 2 to power n over 2. No. When n is equal to infinity, what does it, what approach? It gets infinite. The 2 to power n as n approaches infinity is infinity. But Professor Atiyah says it's infinity. 2 to power n over 2 is 0. Now, folks, that's what, is everybody listening?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Are you hearing that conversation?
Yes, I am.
2 to power n, when x is less than 1, you have 2 to power minus n over 2. When you have a minus in the power of a number, it means it's an inversion. Inversion means that this is, you take 2 on top and 1 is bottom. Therefore, it becomes 2 to power n over 2 when x is equal 1/2. Professor Atiyah says that 2 to power n over 2 when n is infinity is actually 0. Does that make sense to you?
No.
What is 2 to power, say, 2? What is that? You know what 2 to power 2 means? You multiply 2 by itself 2 times. What's that number? 2 times 2. What is 2 times 2 in effect?
4.
4, that's right. What is 2 times 2, which is 4, times another 2?
8.
So you can see as I increase n, what is happening to 2 to the power n over 2. You know, in other words, when you have 2 to the power 2, okay, that is n, or n over 2. N over 2 is equal to 2. So you have 2 to the power 2. So if I make n over 2 equal to 4, or equal 3, then it will be 2 times 2 times 2. You know, multiply 2 by itself 3 times. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So 2 times 2, meaning 2 multiplied by itself twice. You have the answer is 4, right?
Yes.
When you multiply 2 by itself 3 times, you get 8. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. When you multiply by itself 4 times, what do you get? Which is 8 multiplied by another 2, right?
Yes.
Yes.
16. So you can see the bigger the number n over 2, the bigger 2 to the power n over 2 is. Can you see that?
Wow. Yes.
Yes.
So if you imagine 2 of n over 2 to be infinity, what kind of number do you think 2 to the power n over 2 is going to be? 0?
Wow. Infinite.
Atiyah, in effect, says 2 to the power n over 2 when n is infinity is 0.
That's stupid.
That's the only way you can say prove Riemann hypothesis to be correct. Can you see that?
Yes.
Now that is what Jim Crow thought he had done when he brought guns to our shores, and he says the gun is going to speak for him. Along with. Do you all understand?
They blocked you out.
Oh, they dropped him?
No, I couldn't hear what you said. It was kind of scrambled.
Yeah. They dropped him?
So he's back through. Can you hear me? Okay.
So,
Right. I'm going to connect you now.
so, who is?
Is Bash there?
Yes. They had
Strong Bash here.
What happened to you, Bash?
no, I was there. They had scrambled your voice. That's why.
Yes. Oh, you can see the response to the statement of the truth, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, this is a fraud that has been perpetrated. This is extremely deadly. First of all, Atiyah is a response to the African International Prize. That's something you need to understand. Once that letter came out, because they understand this, they understand what God has done here, and that G2J is untouchable. They understand, just like I went over before. In other words, the contradiction of Atiyah is saying, it says there's convergence when x is equal to 1/2. And I just proved that when you do that, you're saying that 2 to the power n over 2 when n is infinity approaches 0 when n is infinity. That's what we just went over. Did you see that?
Yes. That's impossible.
That's absolutely impossible. You have to be a moron to, not only try to sell that and you claim you have a Cambridge degree, but also that you think there are people who are going to buy it. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, so the goal of Atiyah at 89 is to take the focus away from the award that has been confirmed for the G2J solution to Riemann hypothesis. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Because,
Yeah.
the G2J recognizes that when x is less than 1, this thing does not converge at all, because there's no convergence. It's explosive. That has been confirmed in every direction. Any computation guy says they cannot compute the zeros when n gets very large. And the next thing it will be for you all to take your tutorial. Like Sister Ra wants to get in Gagut 101. Get it so you can take on Atiyah. You can compute the zeros and teach Atiyah that it's not possible for convergence when x is less than 1, particularly when x is 1/2. Can you understand?
Yeah.
This is, you see, in G2J, Gagut, there's nothing, Gagut sees everything, like as every corner is seen. The upper bound, which is the amplitude, is shown here, closed form. So you can see that with your eyes, if you have mathematics, the geometry, if you understand geometry, you know that there is no convergence when x is less than 1, but there's a convergence when x is greater than 1. That is what is proves there, because in one case, the function will blow up when x is less than 1. The function will approach 0 when x is greater than 1, when n is infinity. That's what this shows very loud and clear. And they also discuss that because this proves at the same time the African origin or Gagutian origin of mathematics. That's one additional thing that especially Atiyah have been part Arab and Clement with some Jewish ownership and partners and so on and so forth. They conspired to terrorize our people in terms of them so-called enslaved black people. Now this proves your fraud and tells you who is the real master. The real master has the truth. You don't have the truth, so you don't have no idea what the master is. So all the shipment of our people, this is how God, into horrors, this is how God got even. God gave us God's language. And you can't even understand because you are such, your IQ of 19 can't help you. And it's the basis of you being terroristic to people. And God made us much bigger than you, who were tolerating your rubbish. Now it's time to teach you some serious intelligence. What you said is moronic, Professor Atiyah. 2 to the power infinity does not equal 0, Professor Atiyah. It's not possible. And both Bash and Sister Ra will have to teach you, give you some, some lessons, they got to school you, they got to teach you some little simple geometries and simple algebra and simple arithmetic for you to, in other words, you have the whole world right now behind him. They're watching that dumb video, so-called lesson in Germany, where he's telling people, and the people, once you play the racial dynamics, people are going there like morons. They're going, the numbers count is off the roof. To go and absorb 2 to the power infinity is equal to 0. Do you understand?
Yes.
That's what Atiyah is pumping the world with. Is it any wonder the world is in chaos? How could 2 to the power infinity be 0? That's what Atiyah is doing to the world. And you all have a responsibility to rescue the world. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
It's right here in your Gagut book. John, come on. Bring up another thing.
Can everyone hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Now, are you looking? If you're looking at U bar 3, can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
U bar 3 is expanded here, so you can see it with clarity. And I've even further handwritten it here so you can see. This is what determines the convergence of zeta function. Precisely. When x is greater than 1, there's convergence because this number here will be independent of n. And therefore, any large n will have basically the same result because 1 over large, if you take your infinity to begin with 10 to the power trillion, you add more to that, makes it 10, this term here will be 0, irrespective of what n, how large n is beyond the 3 trillion. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
So therefore, U bar 3 will be independent of n. It will be independent to have, because any n, actually machine zero, used to be a million or 1 over a million. When you have a trillion here, you know that is, if 1 over a million is 0, if you have 1 over a trillion, that's also going to be 0. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Yes, because it's small. 1 over a trillion is smaller than 1 over a million. You understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
So therefore, if you write off 1 over a million to be 0, obvious 1 over a trillion will also be 0. Do you understand?
Yes.
So therefore, this term here will be independent. It doesn't matter how large your n, as long as they're higher than trillion or higher than a million, they will all be 0. Therefore, this will be knocked out of the equation. This will be out. But that's only when x is greater than 1. If n is less than 1, the exact opposite. In other words, the only thing that dominates this expression will be 2 to the power n over 2. So if n is, and in that case, you must specify n for your function here. It will be dependent on n. But it will be dependent on n, and it will be too large for you to compute your computer. That's what every computation person is saying. They cannot find to compute, when n gets very large. So Gagut, this equation proves that very clearly. It's painful to me that, you all you don't understand what I'm saying to know how insulting Atiyah is to you. Do you understand?
Yes.
In other words, Atiyah is insulting you and he thinks you're too dumb to understand the insult and that you're going to come along with him. That's what Atiyah is doing. But as you can see, he's too dumb to talk to me. Can you see that?
Yes.
Can you see that? You think
Yes.
Atiyah can face me with this equation here?
No.
No.
That's why he's running away. So he's cornering those whom they could see. The folks who are nothing, are focused on race, they will buy it because for them it's some kind of liberation. It's not a liberation. It's death, because ignorance is death. You can't say 2 to the power infinity is 0. Do you understand?
Yes.
That's not liberation. That is the worst kind of imprisonment. That's hell. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yeah. So therefore, but what you're going through is a situation where you could tell Atiyah, show him, flash this equation on his face. Do you understand? That's a tool that God has given to you from Gagut. When God, declared you as the most intelligent race, this is the evidence. Nobody else has. If you see the pile up in the trillions, literally, if there are that many people. But then again, YouTube and company, they inflate the numbers to tell you, oh, Atiyah must be right. Atiyah must be right to tell the world 2 to the power infinity 0. That's rightness, righteousness.
No.
But that's what I showed you here. This is the only thing that determines the convergence of zeta function. He chose 1/2. This number here is minus. That's minus, meaning this is inverted. It means it moves away from the bottom and goes on top. In that case, it will be 2 to the power n over 2. When n is equal to infinity, 2 to the power 2, t to the power n over 2 becomes 2 to the power infinity. And 2 to the power infinity over 2, which is still infinity. The bottom line is that's an extraordinarily large number. It's not 0. It's only when it is 0 that you can ignore it. It's not 0. The only time it's 0 is when x is greater than 1. And then it's infinite. Then 1 over infinity is 0. But infinity itself is not 0. Do you understand? Oh,
Yes.
Okay. Sister Ra, how you doing? You picking that up?
Yes, sir.
All right. This is important. Okay, because this is a relationship between black people and we don't, you see, they work with propaganda and indoctrination of people. So the focus is for you to take your, the goal of Atiyah is to make you ignore this. You're going to go with the crowd. Professor Ben Yochanan has a way of describing that dynamics. Jim Crow has, insulted the masses by turning them into non-thinking creatures. That's what he's taking you as, so as to make you forget infallible truth. The geometry is extremely clear here. That's why it's a God order. That's why the African International Prize has been awarded. Now, the test of whether you understand this insult or you don't mind being insulted is your response to the Gagut Ed donations that's supposed to collect, also solve the funding of the African International Technology Prize. Because the whole idea is to get you to take your focus off from here and say, well, I don't understand this. Atiyah must be right. Atiyah must be right to say 2 to the power infinity is equal to 0. So you go along with that. Don't you think you have some responsibility?
A great responsibility.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
There's a level beyond where you can say, oh yeah, Atiyah was responsible. Why I insulted the creator? Anyway, 2 to the power infinity is more related to God's essence. Infinity is the realm where God is. Do you understand?
Yes.
Saying that infinity is 0. Though not in the 0 in the Gij is a reference point. A reference point that is 0 can still be infinity. And in this case, it is infinite, but it's called a reference point. Anything can be a reference point, including infinity, but provided where you started, that is the 0 we're talking about. This 0 is actually the magnitude of something. The magnitude is what we're talking about here. So the magnitude is actually 0 when it is infinite. That's an insult, and that's why God created me to protect you. Do you understand?
Yes.
Praise God.
Praise God, but I'm protecting you with the power of God, and the language of God, which is the truth. Atiyah is killing you by perpetrating fraud on you, just like they kill you every day. Do you understand?
Yes.
This is a killer. To say that 2 to the power infinity 0 is a killer. It's the stuff that death is made of. Do you understand?
Yes.
That's what kills. That's what Atiyah is pushing. And the YouTube is there. But like I said, if you would join in that stuff and then you forget, you didn't look at, into here, you're not going to be motivated to raise the money. Do you understand? For the African International Technology Prize. Because you say Atiyah has the solution. But what in fact Atiyah is giving to you is a fraud. Do you understand?
Yes.
But can you see the fraud now? Do you know that x is equal to 1/2 is less than 1? You know that much, right?
Yes.
50 cents is less than $1, isn't it?
Yes.
50 cents is 1/2 of $1. So if you subtract 50 cents from $1, what do you get?
50 cents.
You owe the person 50 cents. You know, this money, you're in debt for 50 cents. That's what the minus means. Do you understand?
Yes.
You don't have the money, but you borrowed it from somebody. So that's what we're dealing with here. So what you do is, first of all, Atiyah can speak for you when I'm there. Do you understand? Who do you think is more likely to tell the truth about you? Your own kind or somebody else?
My own kind.
Exactly. Who are the kind of people that you know that is extremely difficult for them to lie to you as an individual?
My own kind.
Your own kind, particularly your mother and your father. Sister Ra, have you ever tried to lie to your children?
No, sir.
That's right. You know, you're going to lie to your children that there is some kind of python nearby, and you tell them, oh, there's no python. They say, fun, go over there. Would you lie like that to your children?
No.
That's right. So your own kind are more likely to tell you the truth. Atiyah is a fraud. He has proven through past histories that all they do for black people is fraud, like MLK 365 in Philadelphia. The Jewish people are supposed to celebrating Martin Luther King, Reverend King, you know, 365 days a year. Okay? And they're terrorizing black people like what is being done here. Do you understand? He's going out of the way to use fraud to refuse to surrender the prize to the G2J. And then he says he loves black people so much he's celebrating Reverend King every day. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Does that add together?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't add up. How about Bash? Does it add together?
No.
That's right. You're going to learn the concept of convergence. It's elegant mathematics. Nobody thought that was feasible. That's what it means to say, Oyibo is blessed with ultimate intelligence. See, this came through my brains, and you can see I can explain it to you, and you can even understand some of it. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Where has Atiyah showed you any of the things of it to make sense that you can understand? Where did she show you that? Has Atiyah shown you anything in his so-called proof of Riemann hypothesis that convinced you?
No.
Yeah, you've been scrambled as usual. So you don't speak. That's part of the fraud, isn't it? Why they not allow you to speak your mind?
Yes.
And you see the proof of that already?
Yep.
How about Bash? Can you see that?
Yes.
Have I ever constrained your ability to make a comment on what I present here?
No.
No.
That's right. That's how you know the difference. But you've gone through a lot of experience. Somebody tells you one thing and does another. But this is the act of God right here. It is so elegant they can't touch it. You understand? So they can only, so they would try to ignore it and give you a fraud that 2 to the power infinity is 0. Now remember that. You're going to remember that. Go to this equation 10-9q. Is where that Atiyah's, said that if he claimed he proved Riemann hypothesis, then that's what it means, is that 2 to power infinity is 0. Do you understand? It's the only way that this will disappear from this equation. Do you all understand that?
Yes.
Okay, if you don't understand, I keep on asking, you know, until you understand it. It's dead. This will not go away. So by pushing Atiyah, what the goal is that you don't going to look at this anymore. You're going to, in fact, throw your Gagut books out so you become a slave. That's what their purpose is. Do you understand?
Yeah.
It's a brute force, atrocity, set of atrocities. A brute force attack on your mind. You understand? So
Yeah.
Yes.
it's my job, according to God, order to explain the thing to you. It's exact. It's not, I'm not giving you any fancy or eloquent speech. I'm giving you geometry. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
So Atiyah doesn't give you anything. You have no business even paying attention to Atiyah. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yes, you have no basis to listen to Atiyah. But Atiyah has, you understand, the last time I took a glance at the counter, they were flying literally to the entire population of humanity. Now that is what the tool of propaganda machine is supposed to be for. And you are handicapped because you don't have your own propaganda machine. Thanks to Sister Ra and Dr. and the other sister. Those are the only ones that are doing something right now. Because our people are so far gone, they don't understand what we're talking about. And this is a challenge additionally to you because they're trying to ignore the African origin of mathematics. God got even by using that origin to come and feature in the Riemann hypothesis, dynamics. You're not going to allow somebody to hide again, the second time, hide your origin of mathematics. Would you?
No, sir.
That's what this is the only way, only rigorous way you can determine if where Riemann zeta function converges or not. It comes out of your origin, your origin of mathematics. That's what makes it incredible. That's how God got even. All right. So there are a lot of things here. A lot of things here. So, okay, so we're going to leave it like that because, as I said, time is gone already. When you're talking about something like this, it takes so much time. John, okay, I want you to move on quickly to, so the key that there's no way there could be convergence, and if there's no convergence, you cannot talk about the zeros at infinity for Riemann hypothesis. That is the bottom line that is in here. And you can always ask questions from here until you understand. Read some stuff about convergence because it's high mathematics, but it is infallible, Okay. So, all right. So so now you see the exact formula for convergence of Riemann of the zeta function. That's what I show you. U bar 3 is the formula for determining convergence. And it proved that, when x is equal to 1/2, there is absolutely no convergence. It blows up, and that has confirmation from computation people and everywhere else. But most importantly, the U bar 3 is the rigorous proof it doesn't converge, and therefore cannot be a zero. There cannot be one unique set of zeros for when n approaches infinity. It's not possible. Because when you change the n, in other words, the zeros for n is equal to 1,000,000 or 6, okay, power is the power we're talking about, is different from a zero when n is equal to 15 or 20 or other bigger numbers. So, so therefore, for anybody to ask you about the set of zeros, then they will have to give you a value for n. If they don't give you a value for n, you cannot determine it. Can you see that?
Can you all
Yes. Yes.
Praise God, Mr. Bash.
Praise God. Praise God, Sister Ron. Okay. Go to, so now that's the convergence is settled. There's no way Riemann hypothesis can be proven because proven for infinity. For finite field, yes, meaning they'll have to give you n. Now, if they give you n too large, there's no computer to compute, so you can't find it anyway. You know, so that's the bottom line. So Atiyah, there's no way Atiyah is making any sense, but probably banking on his 89-year-old age, you know, is what his banker is going to get for forgiveness. But he's killing people by not only insulting people and calling them idiots, but, you know, of thinking they will all all agree with that fraud. I just gave you, I've been giving you the examples before, but I gave you additional one today. And think about it and ask questions next time. You understand? You all understand?
Yeah.
Okay. Go to, so that with convergence, we'll now go to the graph, go to the plots. Yes. Yeah. These are the zeros, yes. Okay. Is it on?
Yes, can everyone see the graph?
Yes.
Okay, that's a zeros are the Riemann hypothesis guess. Okay? And how you tell is the xj is 0.5, 1 over 2. Okay? So you see the zeros where the two curves are both zeros. Okay, you can see them there. Okay, you can have those. That's what is called finite field, meaning n is a finite number. You specify n. If you don't specify n, you can't do any computation. Do you understand?
Yes.
If you keep on going with the series, you will run out of this solar system. There's no end to it. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you all understand?
Yes.
Infinity doesn't end. You have to keep on going. Now, but you can approximate infinity if by taking an arbitrary large number, you find out that, you know, the function doesn't depend on n. In other words, you have some kind of inverse where the thing approaches zero. That's the only say you can say, okay, when it is very large, it is independent of n. And therefore, for, then you give your approximate solution. That's the bottom line. John, come on. So this is a Riemann guess, but it's for finite. Finite is very finite here, and it's equal to 10. Only 10 terms is all you need to be able to determine zeros. And these zeros are going to vary with n. If you chose 20, it will not look like, it won't be this exactly anymore. It will be other numbers, a set of numbers. It won't be this. And so it's going to change till for eternity. There's no change. John, you understand? So that's what we're dealing with here. Atiyah says, well, you know, this is the zeros for infinity. No way. You can try the experiment. It doesn't work like that. Absolutely no. It's the exact opposite. Now, the region where, or the interval where that is the case is when x is greater than 1. And that's what we showed the other time. You know, what Atiyah has done is true for finite values. So if you've proven Riemann for finite values, it doesn't deal with the problem. The problem asks for infinite values of n. That is, therefore, he has not produced a solution to the question, the problem. He has just conveniently ignored the problem and gave a wrong answer, that's all. But he wants you to buy that because that's what he's been doing with you for 2,500 years. He doesn't know Gagut is here today. He doesn't know that. Atiyah is far gone. You understand? So that's what we're dealing with here. What did you say, Sister Ra?
They trying to scam me, but we holding on.
I could barely hear you. They're desperate. You can see that. So you can see these are the people behind Atiyah. You know, they're desperate trying to see, even when it was being presented 3 years ago, they were doing the same thing. They were doing exactly the same thing. They were scrambling it. They didn't want you to hear anything All right. So, yeah, go to 1.18. Okay. Can you see that?
Can everyone see the graph?
Yes.
Yes.
Atiyah, Professor Atiyah also claimed by saying Riemann hypothesis is right. He's saying there's no zero. You see, notice, you see the okay. The xj is 1.18. You can see that that's not 1 high, it's not 0.5 anymore. Okay? And there is a zero here. This is approximately zero. Approximately zero right here. Can you all see that? Can you see where I'm pointing?
Yes.
The two components are approximately zero, and that's the 0 point here. These others are approaching, and they're not exactly zero, but you see, n is equal to 440 as opposed to 10 for Riemann. Yes. So the number of terms is much larger, but they're approaching zero. Considering that, you know, when you make this 100 million, you know, this will be getting smaller and will be approaching zero. Is what is called an asymptotic zero. Asymptotic because it is guaranteed it's going to go because the magnitude, or rather the amplitude, will get bigger. You know, according to the U3 bar, it gets bigger with n, the amplitude. So what happens is, but the number that is being subtracted is so small. So, but within that infinite interval, this thing is getting smaller. In other words, the bottom here is going to get closer to zero. It's very close to zero right now. But the more n you keep, the more the bottom gets closer to zero. So this is a realistic solution to the actual zeros at infinity. And along comes, you know, the other components, and there are infinite of them because they are what you call a clock, a problem of a clock. So this is what God has revealed. You must pay attention to this. You must raise the scholarship, not the funding for this for the prize. What is being attempted with Atiyah is to take you off that focus. So you perpetually look like you have nothing and that you are poor and that you have no brains. That's what God created me the most intelligent. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can see I can lecture them. They're running away. You don't see them saying you don't see them trying to say that I don't have intelligence. They can't do that. Because let them come and talk to me. Where's Atiyah talking to me? All right? Atiyah is running away even from these curves because it proves him to be a fraud. He says there's no zero here. Here you have before your eyes. This plot was developed by John that you know here. He plotted this. And the expression, praise God, is right. The expression that's the expression that he plotted. 1 plus r over 2 to the power x into this here. That's what he plotted. This versus y. That's what he plotted. And he gave, say, approximately 0 here. Atiyah says there's no such a 0 when x is greater than 1. And here you are before your eyes. Do you understand?
Yes.
So you have this to flash in Atiyah's face. Can you see that? This is 1.1. The only interval where there's the 0, the only point where the 0 is 0.5. X is equal to 0.5. But here you are at 1.18, and you have a 0 right here. This alone proves him to be dead wrong. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
So those who are following and flooding his video and all that, they're doing damage to their own brains. It makes them feel good, but you feel it's like getting drunk or shooting cocaine. It makes you feel good for the moment, but it consumes your life. It destroys your life. Do you understand?
Yes.
So they are smoking crack. Those following Atiyah are smoking crack. Can you see me? Can you see what I mean?
Yes.
Yes. Let them
Yes,
come and drink distilled water, and they see reality. Do you all understand? That's right here. All right. Yes, you can come one of the summers and you can plot the curves yourself. The expressions right here. That's zeta function right here. That's it. You plot this, you're going to get this with these parameters, you're going to get this 0. Just like we got for the Riemann guess, but in the other interval before. So anyway, so we have proof here Atiyah is totally wrong. Okay, let's move now, John, please. I need you here because I got to show the other things that are extremely critical. Okay, time is gone, and we have less than, oh God, less than, all right. So please ask question. Go to the letter now, the award letter. Actually, start with Professor E. I'll work very quickly. I hope that next stage you're going to skip that. Why don't you go to the GSM 151, and people already know what. And just go to where it says, just flash this, and then you go to where it says Gagut is capable of solving all mathematics problems. Okay. Listen. Okay.
Can you all see the page in front of you?
Yes.
yes,
That is the stamp, the black stamp that is protecting Gagut for the black race. Can you see that?
yes,
Yes, that's what Atiyah is trying to take your focus of that stamp. Do you understand?
yeah,
By showing you a direction to smoke crack. Do you understand? You understand? Listen to Atiyah's what did she say? Yeah.
Could you repeat that, Ms. Q?
work,
Yes. It won't work. I kind of got a sense of what to say. By making you listen to Atiyah, they push you to come and smoke crack. That's what it's equivalent to. Listen to Atiyah is like smoking crack. You understand? Because there's a lot of people there, you're under peer pressure, and they assume you have inferiority complex. You never have confidence in yourself. Do you understand?
Yes.
yes,
Yes, but God gave me enough confidence for all of you. You can hear that in my presentation, right?
yes, sir.
Praise God. God created me to speak on your behalf. That's why they don't touch you when you tell them Professor Oyibo speaks for you. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Praise God. So that's how, it's like having a lawyer, a real good lawyer in this case, God-ordered lawyer. So as you can see, the African International, we call it International Prize for Technology. Technology and science, they're all together. But technology emphasizes also, productivity. You need to have the techniques, So this is the legend, Professor E. Abubakar. He's there, has the same Cambridge PhD certificate like Atiyah, but his is earned and which, as we can see, we're not sure Atiyah's is earned. This summary of what they said was, okay, John is trying to get us okay. You can see there, right? The document. Gagut
Yes.
equation is capable of solving all mathematical problems. That's what I showed you when I began the presentation. All mathematical problems are, in terms of their solutions are represented by Gij. And because all those solutions, individually and collectively, come out of one invariant, Gij, they will, because they're invariant, all of them individually and collectively, the change in that invariant will be zero. That's the exact equation that determines if what you got is a solution or not. You understand?
Yes.
So G2J will have to satisfy that. But already, individual and collectively, their fundamental solution, in terms of the proof of them being solutions, is given through Atiyah's or Ben. Do you all understand?
Yes, sir.
Individually and collectively, therefore, all solutions. So even this statement is an under. This is an understatement when he says it's capable of solving it, because I just showed you the solution is Atiyah's or Ben. That's it. And that's where, G2J was pulled out of. Very loud and clear. So it's verified. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes. And every addition comes from when n is minus 1. And you can pull every addition from there. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So the capable is an understatement. You get it exactly from Atiyah's or Ben. That's the bottom line. So Gagut has the solution to all problems. Can you see that?
Yes.
And it has a backing of a very lustrous Cambridge PhD mathematician, mathematics professor. Do you all understand?
Yes.
And on behalf of the entire black race and the rest of humanity. That's the bottom line. So it is why they said the biggest prize is what Gagut qualifies for. Let's get into the letter itself now. See how much of it we could get down. See, you have now, but you must be thinking of the creative ways to raise the mind.
Can everyone see the document or the letter in front of them?
Yes.
There's guidance. Right.
Yes. Okay, and I'd like you all to come with me in terms of the reading, okay? I got to stay here because you got to be flipping it quickly.
Okay.
All right, because the more you read it, the more you understand what is going on. If a discovery has a solution to all problems, you know that it's entitled to all the prizes available, right?
That's right.
Okay. And you must, it's a privilege for you to be called on to contribute to such a prize. Isn't that right?
Yes, it is, sir.
Because you are contributing to the honoring of the greatest discoveries. Brother Bash there?
Yes.
Do you understand what I just said?
Yes.
Yes, you are like a Nobel, Alfred Nobel in that sense. Can you all see that?
Yes, I see that.
Yes, so therefore that's an extraordinary privilege, you know, to be part of that process. So, on the basis of the supremely powerful recommendation by the distinguished Nigerian Senate through their unanimous adopted God Almighty's Grand Unified Theorem, Gagut Senate Motion 151, March 2010, co-authored by mathematics legend, mathematics professor, Senator E. Abubakar, following their very rigorous global review and verification of Gagut infallibly and exactly to be all the infallible solutions to all problems of mathematics and all other disciplines, which compelled the Nigerian Senate to demand that you, Professor Gabriel Oyibo, through whom God revealed Gagut, be recognized by awarding you, Professor Gabriel Oyibo, the greatest academic prize in history on behalf of the Black race and the rest of humanity. We are writing to convey to you an African Prize Award for Excellence in Science and Technology of the African International Foundation of Technology. The award is in recognition of your strenuous efforts through God's revelation to you, Professor Gabriel Oyibo, during 1990 of the Grand Unified Theorem, or Grand Unified Theorem of everything, the ultimate theory of everything, otherwise known as God Almighty's Grand Unified Theorem, Gagut, or Gij, equal to 0, which is revelation by God to you, Professor Gabriel Oyibo, which infallibly prove that all theorems are infallible truths, like all created things or all things that exist, or all infallible solution to all problems and all equations representing all of those theorems, past, present, and future, originate out of one invariant Gi, which infallibly defines and proves existence and nature of God, the Creator, with orthogonal components Gij and the divergence change of Gij, J equal to 0, which is the holy grail of mathematics and physics, as well as knowledge of infallible truths. All knowledge of infallible truths. This is the theorem and equation Albert Einstein and other science and mathematics luminaries search for unsuccessfully, although also for God's revelation to you, Professor Gabriel Oyibo, the geometric solutions infallible proofs eta sub n equal gnj times x to power x to xj to power n plus 1, or eta sub n equal, the actual thing is spelled out, Gij, J equal to 9. Hence, all fundamental infallible solutions and all fundamental infallible proofs of all problems and all theorems respectively, including the Clay Math Institute 7 toughest math problems, whose solutions were revealed by God through Gagut during 1990, roughly 10 years before Clay Math was established to announce those problems, which was the beginning of the fraud. And hence, this award recognizes and honors you, Professor Gabriel Oyibo, for your infallible Gagut solution to all those Clay Math 7 toughest math problems, particularly for infallible Gagut solution to the Navier-Stokes problem, AMS A Power Z 2001 0576D05 and EMS Chichoka ZBL 090535063, and for your infallible Gagut G2J solution to the Riemann hypothesis problem. G2J is equal to minus G2J of eta sub 0 is equal to minus eta sub 0 natural log of 2 plus natural log of u of eta sub 0 times e to power I into 2J plus 1 multiplied by pi. And you all can cram that up. Make sure you remember, it stays in your memory. G2J paper entitled God Almighty's Grand Unified Theorem, Gagut, Gij, has revealed proven solution to Riemann hypothesis, a clean mathematics millennium problem by Professor Gabriel Aldo Oyibo. Gagut, Unified and Radical Mathematics Research Journal, November 2010, volume 1, number 1, pages 23 to 310 of Happiness Technology. YouTube page is given by those then reviewers. AMS, Mr. not Mr. It's actually Mathematical Review 98E 83007, EMS ZBL 0929-53055, Professor E. Abubakar / Professor L. Dambo. Conclude G2J to be the only valid solution to the Riemann hypothesis and has been revealed through Gagut during 1990. Playman reviewers, they have not been able to disagree, and they cannot fairly disagree with the infallible Gagut G2J solution to Riemann hypothesis, together with all other problems, past, present, and future, as well as God's revelation to Professor Gabriel Aldo Oyibo that hydrogen defined by Gagut as the Afrotrojan is the only real element on the periodic table and not 118 plus elements as was believed before Gagut. And in the process, God revealed to you how to produce gold and any other precious metals from Afrotrojan or from other non-precious material, for instance, sand. You, Professor Gabriel Aldo Oyibo, were also blessed by God with the understanding that eta sub n represents all of the fundamental components of the universe, such as eta sub 0 representing all subatomic particles, and eta sub 1 represent through eta sub infinity representing all of the various hierarchies of the solar system, galaxies, and so eta sub n with n varying from negative infinity to plus infinity has exactly transformed the totality of the universe into all of the universe's fundamental components through which God allowed you, Professor Gabriel Aldo Oyibo, to understand the totality of the universe. Eta sub infinity was also revealed by God to you, Professor Gabriel Aldo Oyibo, to be the rigorous proof of the God Almighty's Grand Unified Theorem, Chicago, Gij, equal to 0. You, Professor Gabriel Aldo Oyibo, were blessed by God to also understand that intelligence transforms complex realities like the universe to their fundamental simpler components with which to understand those complex realities, just like eta sub n transforms the totality of the universe into all of the universe's fundamental components through which God allowed you, Professor Gabriel Aldo Oyibo, to understand the totality of the universe, which is how God revealed to you, Professor Gabriel Aldo Oyibo, that eta sub n and intelligence are one and the same, and that eta sub n exactly defines intelligence. You, Professor Gabriel Aldo Oyibo, were blessed by God to also understand that since the geometric solutions, eta sub n, where n varies from negative infinity to plus infinity fundamentally, and geometrically represents the mapping of polymorphisms of very real complex space-time geometries onto the mathematical space-time geometries like the human brains. Eta sub n, where n represents how many different real space-time points can be mapped onto a single point in the mathematical space-time, like the human brains. The higher the number n, the higher the number of points mapped onto just one point in the mathematical space-time. You know, you got to follow, but that's how you're going to really become intimate with this. This is very critical. Geometry like the human brains, eta sub n, and hence n represents the level or index, okay, or index of intelligence. God thus bless you, Professor Gabriel Aldo Oyibo, with understanding of eta sub n as exact explanation of how brains work. Eta sub infinity, through which God bless you, Professor Gabriel Aldo Oyibo, with the understanding of the totality of the universe, represents infinite or ultimate intelligence, and n is equal to infinity represents the infinite ultimate intelligence level or portion designed by God for you, Professor Gabriel Oyibo. And God bless you, Professor Gabriel Oyibo, with ultimate intelligence of etas of infinity. Etas of n, where n varies from negative infinity to plus infinity, was revealed by God to you, Professor Gabriel Oyibo, to fundamentally represent all solutions to all problems. For example, God revealed to you, Professor Gabriel Oyibo, that G2J as a function of etas of 0 to be the Gagut infinite solution to Riemann hypothesis. God also revealed to you, Professor Gabriel Oyibo, that when the value of n approaches infinity, the fundamental building block of God or the universe, where the resulting etas of n, etas of infinity, is the absolute infinity that defines God as the one unbounded space-time of intelligence that we call the universe, which can't expand. All of those God revelation to you, Professor Gabriel Oyibo, have been verified by large numbers of global mathematicians and scientists, together with all global mathematical and scientific organizations and universities, which include Professor Yom Karo of American AMS, Professor Grigor Sagas, EMS, that's EMS is American Mathematical Society, EMS, European Mathematical Society, Professor Chichoka, EMS, Professor Pazzi, AMS, Professor A.D. Conte, AMS, Professor Alex Anemalu of the National University Commission, NUC of Nigeria, who is a Cambridge University trained mathematical physics professor, Professor Iya Abubakar. Okay, Professor Iya Abubakar of the National University Commission, NUC of Nigeria, who is a world-class mathematics professor. If you didn't know him before Gagut, he has proven himself with a PhD in mathematics from Cambridge University. In his review of Gagut, he has definitely proven himself. He's definitely not like Atiyah. Other renowned mathematics and mathematical science professors, like Professor George Handelman, former Brown University math professor, Professor Edith Lucius, whose academic grandfather is mathematics legend Professor David Hilbert of Göttingen University, Professor L. Librescu, a mathematics science professor and a hero of the Virginia Polytechnic Institute massacre, Professor Robert Lowy, a famous aeronautics professor from Georgia Tech, Professor Eugene Brunel, a famous aeronautics professor from Princeton University, Professor William Sigmund, a famous math professor with a PhD in mathematics from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, naming a few. You should be able to really read this in terms of like a poem. AMS, among the other reviews are AMS Mathematical Review 98E 83007, EMS ZBL and 0929 53055. Göttingen University greatest mathematician ranking honor professor Carl Friedrich Gauss, considered to be the greatest mathematician since antiquity before Gagut, during the Gauss year 2005 commemoration, where they recognize Gagut as the greatest mathematics work, past, present, and future, and hence recognizing you, Professor Gabriel Oyibo, to whom Gagut was revealed by God as being the greatest mathematician of all time, with the ultimate intelligence of etas of infinity that can't be surpassed, past, present, and future, by making the Gagut revelation the center of the commemoration. Week 26 out of week 55 week commemoration. And by recognizing Gagut as the God Almighty's grand unified theorem, they have also recognized that all infallible solutions, mathematically defined as theorems or infallible truths to all mathematics problems, including the clear math, 7 toughest math problems, particularly the infallible Gagut solution to the Navier-Stokes problems, as well as infallible Gagut G2J solution to the Riemann hypothesis problem, have all been infallibly revealed by God to you, Professor Gabriel Oyibo, through Gagut. National University Commission of Nigeria, together with the global evaluation of Gagut, along with the Nigerian government issuing a Nigerian postage stamp in honor of Gagut. An evaluation by world-recognized mathematical physics professor Krishnajit Dasgupta that compelled him to conclude that Gagut has recognized you, Professor Gabriel Oyibo, as being, in his own words, more close to God than any of us. In addition to this conclusion, the foundation was compelled by the resolution of the Senate in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, co-authored by the mathematics legend Professor Senator E. Abubakar with PhD in mathematics from Cambridge University, as contained in the Order Paper 151, dated 15th of March 2005, which recognized that Gagut has all infallible solutions to all problems of mathematics and all other disciplines. That if we want other nations and indeed the world to recognize and appreciate accomplishment of African geniuses, African nations should, as a matter of urgency, create mechanisms for recognizing and honoring the geniuses of and great exploits of our race. That this distinguished Senate do urge the federal government of Nigeria to liaise with other members of the African Union to immediately institute the African International Prize for Science and Technology with a prize award money higher than that of Nobel Prize. That it is necessary and expedient for Nigeria and other African nations to make legislative provisions for the enthronement of African International Prize for Science and Technology. That Professor Gabriel Oyibo be honored as first recipient with the maiden edition of the award. That this Senate do congratulate Professor Gabriel Oyibo on his achievements and honor him with the invitation to address this distinguished Senate in the chamber of his God Almighty's Grand Unified Theorem, Gagut. The foregoing resolutions of Nigerian Senate, which is the highest legislative authority of the most concentrated blacks in the world, and result of the appropriate authority of the foundation confirmed your outstanding credentials for this award. It's the highest prize for academic achievement in the history of mathematics, science, and technology, because Gagut is the greatest revelation of discovery by God to any creature. And necessary high-profile arrangements would be put in place for immediate conferment of the award, the date and venue of which will be communicated to you in due course, please. You are requested to note that a public scientific lecture on the subject of this award will be delivered by you as part of the award ceremony. Accept our congratulations. The prize money of this award is equivalent with $2 million US dollars every year for your lifetime. However, beyond your lifetime, we say never again, the award continues. We can't be without prize ever again because next generation will have nothing. So the award continues for the next generation, in the same amount, which would become part of the endowment of the Far East Technology, the home of Gagut, defined by God to be the ultimate university and universal headquarters of intelligence for all creatures. For African International Foundation for Science and Technology, Professor Peter Burongu, Director General. That is the letter. And every black person, including those of you listening now, must make it a point. You don't have to have the cash to make contributions. By using your brains to understand what is incorporated in here, which I spent the first part of the presentation verifying for you in terms of Gagut being the solutions to every problem, okay? Through eta sub n, the function of eta sub n are solutions to all problems. So therefore, that has been proven very loud and clear. The entire black race have verified that, and through the document, and now the prize has been awarded. So the easiest part is now pulling the award together in terms of, first of all, the reason there has not been a prize is because Jim Crow pushed special ed on black people. Whether you're talking about elementary school or the university level, all the SPGUs, whether they're in America or in South Africa, or the African diaspora, they're all fraud. They have nothing in them, which is why they were hoping nothing like this would ever happen, but it has happened. And then in the process, it closes the doors to all those schools. Either they make it a real African school that must be campuses of Far East Technology, or they withdraw our names from there. There's no other choice. So, but you begin that with giving the price. You have to do that. Those who don't have money, use their intelligence to be equivalent of the money. Let them teach others. There are people who have the Jim Crow dollar. So by explaining things to them, even if you don't have, you will make them donate on behalf of both of you. That is the sense. That's how it is done. Do you all understand?
Yes. Yes.
Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
Okay, and those of you who are listening, right now is the time to go on PayPal. Go on our website and click on our PayPal this now. Make your donations. Okay.
You can find the link at the very top of the Gagut.org website, or even on this YouTube page under the description. Right after the title, there's going to be a description which says read more. When you click it at the very bottom, you'll see the very link to the website where you can make your donation.
That's how you do the donation.
At the very top of the actual read more part.
Yeah, there's another one.
Yes, a direct link for the PayPal.
Direct link. You click on that to give your donation. That's what's left to be done. It's done. Okay, and Atiyah wants to take your focus off it. Don't buy that, because that is deadly. That is anti-God, because God made you the leaders. You can't be listening to some Atiyah. Do you all understand?
Yes, sir.
I praise God, that because Atiyah is supposed to be listening to you, not the other way around. Atiyah comes from a group that has a 19 level of intelligence. Your intelligence level is above 28. Do you understand me?
Praise God. Yes.
Praise God. And of course, mine is infinity. So therefore, you have to go in my direction, not Atiyah's direction. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
You'll be going in the opposite direction if you go Atiyah's direction, right?
Right.
Okay, how about Bash? What do you think?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that's what we could do tonight. And we now need to go into action. If you don't have the Jim Crow dollar, don't worry. Talk to another brother or another sister. Be passionate about it. So what you're here for is to really understand what we're talking about.
And this goes for those who are writing comments in the actual comment page in terms of live event report. People who are commenting in the chat part there, you can also donate as well.
Yes.
Following links.
Absolutely. And talk to governments, all black governments. See, because of UBA 3, that implicates every black leader worldwide. They have to protect that UBA 3, that is the basis of solving the zeta function zeros, you know, and in the process solve the Riemann hypothesis. The African origin of mathematics is very key to that process. Atiyah wants to perpetrate the fraud perpetrated by the Jews and Arabs for centuries. By trying to cover that up, you're not going to allow that to happen. So talk to every government in Africa. Bash, you were earlier on talking about what about African governments? Call them up. They have embassies here. Call them up. Let a group of black people make an appointment to see the ambassadors and tell them the truth. Do you understand? And tell them how you feel. You know, so that's part of the communications. They must vote a budget. In fact, let them go to a World Bank and take a loan if they have to, because this is a life and death situation. You cannot allow your whole blessing to be stolen by Jim Crow because supposedly you don't have money. Your mind is your money. Do you all understand?
Praise God.
Do you all understand?
Sir.
Okay, so, and like I said, like John said, those who are watching the thing live, please go and make your donation. Beneath what call below the video
below
itself,
the title, there'll be a link that allows you to go to our PayPal.
Click on it and make your donation and show it to every other brother and every sister. Okay, we are over 20,000, actually about 21,000 right now. And, you know, which is a little more than 1% of it, but that's because most people are not aware of it, okay? You multiply that by 100, you will get the $2 million we need immediately. You know, Obama, as a Gagut candidate, said, yes, we can. Yes, we can. We have raised more than 1% already. We can finish it up. We are not incompetent people. We're geniuses. Our brains now, they tell that genius intelligence is what needs to be translated into Jim Crow dollar right now. Can you all see that?
Yes. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
They blanked it out.
What did you say?
I
didn't
couldn't hear it. They messed it up.
She couldn't hear.
Okay. Yes, we need to turn our understanding into the fundraising. The special ed education has been quashed. So our people must learn the Gagut productive education. They must replace the special ed that are in our schools all over the world. That is how we ended up in this position. That must be eliminated. So when you donate a registration, you know, we now, if you register yourself, you could invite a black, historical black college to join you. You could even donate your book that's part of registration, to them. In that way, they're compelled to study Gagut, just like Harvard is studying Gagut. You understand?
Yes.
Because if you don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. You have to do it for your children and your grandchildren, your next generations. That's what even Jim Crow does for their own children. You all understand?
Yes.
And you taught Jim Crow how to do that. So you can't say you don't know how to do it, right?
Right.
Okay, so, that's it. I want to say Gagut night with everyone. And, and God is the greatest and in charge, and we've proven everything there is. Atiyah, we've proven Atiyah to be a fraud, very loud and clear. Is anybody that does not understand Atiyah to be a fraud after what we went over today?
No.
No.
Mr. Bash?
No.
Okay. So on that note, we're looking forward to seeing your action, on the fund, on the registration, donating the registrations of the Gagut Ed to black schools and universities. And in the process, we'll become part of that so that if you understood all this, it will be easier for you to articulate it. That's why I'm taking the pains to make sure you understand. Do you all understand?
Yes, sir, I do.
You come into this world to prepare for the next generation. That's part of your responsibility. This is a preparation and this prize is part of the preparation for the next generations. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so we praise God, we praise God, and Gagut night, with everyone, and we see you at the next opportunity. Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening to you
all. All right, Gagut night. Thank you.
Gagut night.
God bless you all.
God bless.
Yes, God bless you all.